Good morning. You're listening to the Brief Wake Up, your mindful start to the day. I am Handel, your daily coffee companion, helping you wake up informed, thoughtful, and maybe just a little amused before the day gets old. If you're commuting, corralling kids, or just standing in line for caffeine, you're in the right place. Let's get you caught up. This morning for our health, we are talking about a dangerous comeback: tanning beds. After years of decline, indoor tanning is trending again among Gen Z, and dermatologists say it's bringing a wave of preventable skin cancer risk. Scroll through TikTok and you'll find young people, mostly women, posting videos of themselves fake baking under glowing UV lights. But a new study in Science Advances shows that glow comes at a steep cost. Researchers found that tanning bed users are nearly 3 times more likely to develop melanoma, the deadliest form of skin cancer, compared to people who've never tanned indoors. And even more alarming, the damage extends far beyond visible burns or spots. Genetic sequencing revealed cancer-linked DNA mutations across nearly the entire surface of the skin, even in cells that look completely normal. Dr. Pedram Jarami at Northwestern University says the more often people tan, the higher their risk climbs. Just 10 to 50 tanning sessions doubles your odds of melanoma. Cross 200 sessions, something you could reach in just 4 years of weekly tanning, and your risk is 8 times higher. Dr. Hunter Shane at UCSF adds that younger women who tan have skin that looks genetically decades older. His team compared them to people twice their age and found women in their 30s and 40s had more mutations than people in their 70s and 80s. That's because tanning beds can emit UV radiation 10 to 15 times stronger than natural sunlight. Dermatologist Heather Rogers says they're often marketed as safe tanning. But this study proves how dangerously wrong that idea is. Jarami says many of his melanoma patients started tanning as teenagers, just wanting to look better for prom or homecoming. Now, in their 20s and 30s, they face constant biopsies, frequent doctor visits, and the emotional weight of living with cancer at a young age. So before stepping into that glowing booth, remember, every session leaves a mark your skin may never forget. The tan fades, but the DNA damage does not. The news is next. In our news this morning, we are following 2 stories with very different in setting, but united by the same uncomfortable truth. Violence doesn't announce itself, and it doesn't stay contained. We begin at Brown University. Over the weekend, what should have been the quiet final stretch of exams turned into chaos. A gunman opened fire inside an academic building, killing 2 students and injuring several others. Today, the shooter has still not been caught. Police briefly detained a person of interest but released him after determining he was not connected. Surveillance images have now been shared publicly, and the search continues. Federal authorities are involved. A reward is being offered, and the message to the community remains blunt: stay alert. What's also coming into focus now is something we talk about less: the aftermath. Students describe confusion during the lockdown. Neighbors say alerts came late or not at all. Classes are canceled. Finals are suspended. And a campus built for ideas, movement, and openness is sitting in a kind of stunned stillness. Moments like this force a hard question. How do institutions built on openness adapt to a world that keeps proving how fragile safety really is? There are no easy answers, only the slow, careful work of accountability, prevention, and healing. And then, across the country, a second shock. In Los Angeles, legendary filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were found murdered in their home, stabbed to death in what police are calling a domestic homicide. Their son has been arrested and is being held on suspicion of murder. For many, Rob Reiner is a cultural landmark, the mind behind The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, and Stand By Me. Stories about love, memory, friendship, and growing up. Which is why this story feels especially jarring. Not because fame protects anyone, it doesn't, but because it reminds us that some of the most devastating violence doesn't happen in public spaces or headlines. It happens behind closed doors, inside families, inside long-running struggles with mental health, addiction, and unresolved pain. Police say the investigation is ongoing, charges are pending, and details will continue to emerge. But already, the larger truth is clear. These were not random acts. They were deeply human ones, rooted in systems that failed quietly, long before they failed loudly. Two stories, two places, one common thread. Violence doesn't just erupt, it accumulates. Through isolation, through untreated illness, through breakdowns in communication, support, and trust. And the question this morning isn't just what happened. It's what we're willing to notice earlier and what we're willing to build differently before the next headline forces us to do so. The news is next. This morning's Big Sip is about a mental shortcut your brain uses every day, often without asking permission. It's called the availability heuristic. The availability heuristic is the tendency to judge how common, how likely, or how dangerous something is based on how easily examples come to mind. If you can picture it quickly, your brain assumes it must be happening a lot. Not because it is, but because it's memorable. And our brains are built to trust memory. Long before spreadsheets or statistics, memory kept us alive. If you remembered where danger lived, you survived. The problem is that modern life feeds our memory far more than it feeds our understanding. Think about flying. Most people feel a spike of anxiety stepping onto a plane, even though the drive to the airport carries far more risk. Why? Because plane crashes are rare, but unforgettable. They're replayed, analyzed, and emotionally charged. Car accidents happen every day, but they don't linger in our imagination. So availability steps in and whispers, "This must be dangerous," or "Think about health." One viral story about a rare medication side effect can outweigh decades of quiet benefit in your mind. One dramatic personal testimony can feel more convincing than thousands of ordinary outcomes. Not because the story is false, but because it's vivid. The brain isn't counting cases, it's counting impressions. This is why our sense of risk can drift so far from reality. And today, that drift is accelerated. We live in an environment designed to maximize emotional recall. Social media, breaking news, push alerts, they reward the most shocking, the most extreme, and the most shareable moments. Your brain doesn't know that repetition isn't the same as prevalence. It only knows what it has seen recently. So availability turns volume into truth. And over time, we start to feel like the world is more dangerous, more unstable, more unpredictable than it statistically is. Not because things haven't changed, but because our exposure has. Here's the pause that matters. Before reacting to a headline, a post, or a story that spikes fear, ask yourself, am I responding to how common this really is, or how vividly I can picture it? That one question doesn't dismiss the story, it just puts it back in proportion. The availability heuristic doesn't mean we're irrational, it means we're human, living in a world that now speaks directly to our oldest survival wiring. Awareness doesn't turn that wiring off, but it does give us back a choice to step away from the loudest story and look for the truer one. The lighter roast is next. This morning's lighter roast is about a paradox many of us experience every Christmas. Family gatherings meant to create peace that somehow revive old conflict. Reunions are designed to bond, but psychologically, they do something else at the same time. They collapse distance. Months, sometimes years, of emotional space disappear in a single living room, over a single meal. And when that distance shrinks abruptly, unresolved things rush back in. Old roles reappear. The responsible one, the dramatic one, the peacemaker who's tired of peacemaking. Competition resurfaces. Old resentments dust themselves off. Differences in values, politics, parenting, and lifestyle all feel louder when they're sitting across the table instead of safely muted by distance. And here's the key point. None of this means your family is broken. It means your brain is efficient. When we're around people who knew us before we evolved, the brain pulls up familiar scripts. Again, available heuristics, even if they no longer fit who we are now. So the tension isn't really about the present moment. It's about history showing up uninvited. That's the paradox. The people who know us best are also the ones most capable of pulling us backward. So how do you navigate this, especially at Christmas? First, manage exposure, not emotion. Shorter visits are often healthier than marathon gatherings. Leaving while things are still good is not rude. It's strategic. Second, don't take the bait. Many family conflicts start as invitations, not attacks. You don't have to RSVP to every comment. Third, change the setting when the temperature rises. A walk, helping in the kitchen, playing with the kids. Physical movement interrupts emotional loops. Fourth, lower the goal. The goal of Christmas isn't perfect harmony. It's shared presence. Peace doesn't require agreement. And finally, remember who you are now. You don't have to shrink back into an old role just because the room remembers it. Because peace at family gatherings isn't the absence of tension. It's noticing it and choosing not to let it run the room. Our commemoration is next. This morning's commemoration reminds us that history doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it slips in quietly, through protest, through art, or through ideas that take years to fully land. On this day in 1773, a group of American colonists boarded British ships in Boston Harbor and dumped 342 chests of tea into the water. The Boston Tea Party wasn't really about tea. It was about consent, about voice, about the moment when people decided they were done asking politely. Historians often point to this night as the psychological turning point of the American Revolution, the moment when protest crossed into consequence. December 16th is also the birthday of Jane Austen, born in 1775. At a time when women's voices were rarely taken seriously, Austen built novels that quietly dissected power, class, gender, and love with surgical precision. Her stories looked like romance, but they were social critique in disguise. She showed that observation can be a form of rebellion. In 1824, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony premiered in Vienna. It broke rules by including a choir and ended with Ode to Joy, a piece that still echoes through history as a symbol of unity and shared humanity. A composer who could barely hear his own work gave the world one of its loudest calls for togetherness. And on this day in 1917, science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke was born. Clarke imagined satellites, global communication, and interconnected worlds long before the technology existed. He reminded us that the future often starts as an idea that sounds unrealistic until it isn't. December 16th is also recognized as Kuwait National Day, marking the accession of the country's first emir, a reminder of sovereignty, identity, and self-determination in a complex region of the world. And now, for something lighter, because history can carry joy too. Today is National Chocolate Covered Anything Day. It's a celebration of a simple truth. Almost everything gets better when dipped in chocolate, fruit, pretzels, marshmallows, and possibly even difficult conversations. It's also National Ugly Christmas Sweater Day, a reminder that not all traditions are meant to be elegant. Some are just meant to be shared, laughed at, and worn proudly in public despite better judgment. December 16th teaches us that change can come through defiance, through art, through imagination, and sometimes through chocolate and bad sweaters. History doesn't need to be perfect to be meaningful. It just needs people willing to show up. Family gatherings don't resurface tension because something is wrong. They do it because history collapses faster than we expect. Peace isn't about fixing old dynamics in one holiday meal. It's about noticing them without stepping back into the role they assign you. This Christmas, presence matters more than perfection, and sometimes the most peaceful choice is simply not letting the past run the room. This is Handel for the brief wake-up. Stay calm, kind, and curious. Top off that cup, and I will see you next time.